Hello, everyone. My name is Donna Xie, and I'm an admission counselor here at Pitzer College. Today, we have our second admitted student mini program titled Student Engagement Day. We're going to start off with Student Senate, who will be joining me on stage in just a few seconds. But just wanted to make a quick announcement that all of our recording is available on our virtual admitted student page. If you miss our Tuesday session on environmental sustainability, you can definitely check that recording out on our webpage or on our YouTube channel. And on that note, I'm going to pass it on over to Student Senate.
I'm going to start very simple with some introductions. So if you guys could say your names, your pronouns, your majors, your involvement with Student Senate, and then other campus involvements, which I know is a lot, but I believe in our ability to present ourselves. So Kayla, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll go first. My name is Kayla. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a foreign language education major, which is a self-design major at Pitzer. My involvement with Student Senate is that I'm currently the junior class representative and the incoming Student Senate president, among other things that I do on campus. So I'm going to hand it off to Becca to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becca. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior and I'm the current Senate president. I'm also a member on the COVID task force and on a million different campus subcommittees that you don't even want to know the details of. I'm a double major in econ and political studies, and I'm going to pass it off to Milena.
Hi everyone, my name is Milena. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a junior at Pitzer, majoring in organizational studies and minoring in anthropology, on Student Senate, I'm on the campus aesthetics committee. I'm also on the COVID task force, and I'll be the incoming identity board chair, which is kind of a different group, but we do a lot of work with Student Senate, so I can talk about that a little bit in terms of our cross collaborations. And I also work in admissions, and I can pass it to Jacob.
Hi everyone, I'm Jacob. I am class of 2023. I'm a sophomore right now, or second year. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am double majoring in history and politics with a minor in biology. And on Senate, I am the current, or one of the current student senators for the Academic Planning Committee, and I am the incoming for next year's Vice President of Diversity. And then outside of Senate, I'm also involved with our Res Life team and some other student organizations across the campus.
Thank you all so much. So just to start with, to kind of explain to people who aren't maybe not used to what Student Senate would look like at Pitzer, which is very different than Student Senate other places, Becca, would you mind kind of explaining what purpose Student Senate serves for the Pitzer community?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there are kind of like two main purposes that Senate serves. One is it creates a place where students can come together and talk about things and put forward student body opinions and voices. So something like telling the city of Claremont that they want to make it a sanctuary city so that dreamers can stay in Claremont and not worry about getting deported. That's something where Student Senate comes together and makes basically like a joint statement as a student body and represents student views. The second function of Senate, which I know may not sound exciting, but I think if you've ever been on Senate or talked to a senator, you'll realize how exciting it is to have students who are on committees. And by committees, I don't mean just like, oh, we're party planning or, oh, we're deciding what goes on the menu at lunch. It's committees that help run the college. So in picking who gets promoted, who gets tenure, what courses are added to the curriculum, who gets to be able to late add a class, any committee that meets on the college to make decisions, students are a part of, and being involved in that is really exciting. And then the last, I guess the third function that I forgot to mention about Senate is that we fund things. We fund student activities, clubs, events. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for student engagement and for fun on campus and getting involved in the community.
Great, thank you so much for that explanation. So on a slightly more personal topic, can you share why you wanted to join Student Senate? So Milena, do you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. I really wanted to join Student Senate just because I've been a part of Identity Board for so long, and I think both of our groups are really powerhouses on campus. So it's personally really important for me to get involved in Student Senate and kind of keep in the know of what's going on, things like that. I'm also on Budget Committee now, so that's been really helpful just to keep up with all of the budgeting for all of our student body and making sure everyone's on track, and also being that voice for the various identity groups on campus has been really helpful. Specifically with the campus aesthetics committee, I think it's an awesome committee. So basically we approve all of the murals and different art pieces on campus. And so everything comes to us. And so if you ever want to draw or paint on murals on Mead, excuse me, which is one of our main dorms on campus, you're welcome to do so. And I think that has been really cool for me to see everyone's kind of artistic abilities throughout COVID.
Thank you. Jacob, do you want to also answer that question?
Yeah, so when it came to like why I wanted to join, I think it was a bit of like curiosity to see like what really happened on Senate. I think I really didn't know how like shared governance worked, and I really like academic stuff. Like I'm like it really like gets me excited to talk about like what our academic plans are, like looking at like how do we like plan for the future, and like how do we like successfully like review like an academic like department. Like that's really exciting to me. And so like academic planning committee just kind of came naturally as like a thing that I wanted to do. And so that was one thing that like I really enjoyed, was like being able to now like talk about like what does like the review process look like for like looking at like organizational studies or for politics or anything like that. So I think that's one thing. And like also like the breadth that the academic planning committee has is something that I've really come to enjoy.
Full disclosure, this is going to be a little embarrassing, but I promise like it comes around. I initially had no intentions of joining Senate whatsoever, but Shivani, who was the president 2 years ago, was tabling at the club fair, and Senate gave out these little like stickers where you could put your student ID on the back of your phone. And I was like, I need that. That sounds actually like something that I would really use, because I lose my ID all the time. So I went over and I talked to her, and she was just so incredibly kind and excited about what Senate was doing that I was like, okay, might as well apply for a position. But I was really nervous about it because I lost like a student council election in 6th grade and never got involved in any kind of elections or student government after that. So I joined, and it was actually like a really warm and welcoming environment. And then I got to make friends with professors and staff who were not at all in my discipline or in my field of study. And I was like, okay, well, Senate is a place where I meet new people and I learn about what's going on at the college in classes that I'm not part of. And so I kind of just fell in love with it and stuck with it.
And for me, I was part of Student Senate in my first year. In the second semester of it, I was like the interim diversity committee representative, I think. And diversity committee is another committee on campus that has students, faculty, and staff all on it, talking about different things that are happening on campus. And I joined because my friend at the time, and also my old roommate, was actually the first year representative. Shout out to Keely. She was really great, and she was always telling me about what was happening in Senate. I was like, okay, fine, I'm nosy, I'm gonna do it. So after that time, I was very confused on what was happening. And then in my sophomore year, I decided not to be a part of it, which is also a good thing about Senate. You could decide if you want to be part of it or not, depending on the semester. And then COVID happened. So I decided that I was going to run for junior class representative. I figured I had the capacity, and I knew that there was a lot of different students in my year that needed representation. So I figured might as well do it. So very glad to have joined it this year. It's been really exciting.
You guys are all so wonderful. I'm so glad you're all involved in Student Senate. Kind of building off of that, so how do you see the core value of student engagement at work in Pitzer, and how has that kind of played in your involvement on campus? Becca, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I think I hate to be that person that says like college is going to change your life and Pitzer is going to change your life, but it will change your life. And something that I was really able to develop through Senate that I then have been able to carry with me in my experiences outside of Senate is a sense of self-efficacy. So if there's something that's happening that you're like, maybe there's a better way we could do this, or this kind of like seems like it's not really going the way that I think is ethically the best way for it to be going, Senate gives you the toolkit for how to speak up about it in a way that's both respectful, productive, and gets you taken seriously. So I definitely learned from older mentors on campus, here's how you can engage with faculty and staff on issues that you disagree with. There was one professor who I think like we had an email disagreement on the listserv, and then we went out for coffee and apple juice and like became really great friends. So I think it kind of takes the stigma away from challenging things around you. And as a result of that, you kind of just develop a sense of like, here are things I can be doing in my community that make a difference for my community. And it kind of like grows and continues and goes with you to other parts of your life that aren't on campus as well.
Kayla, do you want to speak to this?
I don't even remember the question. I was just so into what Becca was saying.
Just how do you see student engagement at Pitzer and kind of in your role as a student senator as well?
I would say it kind of just adds on to the different things that I was a part of. Like before Student Senate, I was a part of different things that were not necessarily institutionalized. So I was helping with advocating for different students, like the Black Student Union. And I feel like with Student Senate, I learned that there's another opportunity for other resources and to use the power within Student Senate to advocate for students that don't necessarily know or understand how Student Senate works. And just other smaller things like last year after everything was happening, I realized that the juniors didn't have the capacity to like fill out their major declaration deadlines, like or forms at a specific time. So I was like, you know what? I'm the junior class representative. I'm gonna ask if we can push this back. And we ended up getting it pushed back. So I love that. And also myself, I had not declared it yet. So it also helped to get other students, is like 50% of the students had filled it out by the time that the deadline was approaching. So that was something that I really enjoyed being able to do, and understanding that student engagement means advocating for different students and their own things that they're dealing with.
Thank you for that. Kind of on a similar topic, Jacob, I'm going to address this to you. What is shared governance, and why do you think it's important in maintaining Pitzer's values?
I love shared governance. It's one of my favorite things about Pitzer, and I also like to say sometimes one of my least favorite things about Pitzer, but I'll talk about why it's one of my favorite things, and then I can address a little bit about why I struggle with it. But it's because it's so good is why I struggle with it. So shared governance, to kind of go over, is the process that we use at Pitzer's governance system, where we have our governance power, whatever you want to call it, really shared across our students, staff, and faculty. So everyone is coming together to have their voices heard and coming together. Our main coming together shared governance moment is college council, which happens 2-3 times a semester, which is really exciting, where I think it's exciting because I like it, but it's where all the faculty, all of the students, and all of staff comes together, and we vote on different issues. We talk about some of the policies that we're deciding on, and then share governance on a smaller scale. Also, all of our committees are going to be that mix between staff, faculty, and students. So it's really exciting. For academic planning committee, we're really able to have students, staff, and faculty. So it's really nice being able to have that perspective as also. So our current staff that's sitting on academic planning committee is actually someone from IT, so it was really exciting. We were able to bring his perspective of creating a possible listserv for academic planning committee. So if people want to just email us we have these thoughts about academics and looking to plan for the future, they can just email our email and talking about setting that up maybe for the other committees as well. So that was just really exciting about shared governance, is that you're able to solve a lot of issues really quickly, and with the people in the room. That's also the flip side of why I struggle with it, is because we have to go through so many people, and sometimes it's I just want to get this passed, and I want it to go at the speed of light, but we have to go through kind of sharing it with the faculty, the staff, the students, and everything. So that's my favorite, but it's good that that's an issue. I think the same thing happens for US governments. If you're a government, if you're interested in politics, you'll figure out that it takes a lot of work to get a bill or piece of legislation passed, and it's the same thing here. It's it takes a while. So I think it's just prepping me for any work that I might want to do in the future. But yeah, that's kind of shared governance.
On that topic, not to make you talk more, but other people can answer as well. But are any of you interested in careers in politics? And if so, how has Student Senate been a part of that or not been a part of that? Jacob, do you want to start, since you just alluded to that?
Yeah, I guess I can keep going. So I really want to go into politics. It was something that I kind of like at the end of like my senior year, like started to take like politics classes and was like, maybe I'll continue with politics. But then like coming to Pitzer, I was like, sure, like I'll look into it more. And then like also like being able to take classes, like I don't know if you guys are following our Instagram, but like I talked about like my favorite class on our Instagram, which is actually a politics class where I looked at like US campaigns and elections. But our shared governance system, I think in a lot of ways, like I'm able to like see like how politics works, and like even like when like we're learning about legislation and stuff like that, like in my classes, I'm like, oh, like I see how this relates to like Pitzer Senate. And like even in like classes when I'm looking at how to make like legislative change or like legislation impacts at like the US scale or like California scale, I'm also then like being able to like connect that to like, okay, like it's very much like the same process of like writing like a policy brief is a lot like writing like a piece of legislation. I feel at times, you know, like you have like, you're like supporting evidence, you have like like the background research that you've done, and then like the specific things that you want to change, like whether that be like line item changes in like our constitution or like policy changes in like how we act out or like how we support students. So that's just like one thing that I've really found is there's a lot of similarities and like parallels that I can see between like large scale politics work and like student governance as well.
I can add to that. I want to give other people a chance to talk to. If you know me, you know that I live for politics. I'm a political studies and econ major, but the econ part is really just because I think math is fun and politics requires math sometimes. Kayla, don't make that face at me. Math is fun. But not only is Senate an excellent gateway for teaching you the tools that you will use if you have a career in policy, but it also is like kind of going to give you a career in policy if you need it to. So I participated in Claremont McKenna College's study abroad program in Washington, DC, not so abroad, where I was interning full-time in an office on the Hill, and I was taking night classes at CMC for a semester. In doing that, I contacted two senators who are working in DC in Congress. Both of them were student senators. Both of them were incredibly kind to me, both alums of Pitzer. And one of them actually ended up giving my roommate a job because she had a weird internship situation happen like halfway through the semester. And she was like, what do I do? And I'm like, don't worry, I will call Hajar, who was the Senate president my first year of Pitzer, and who was incredibly kind and really helpful in kind of like showing the ropes on DC culture. But there are also a lot of like direct politics engagement opportunities that you'll have through Senate. So I got to interview a congresswoman earlier this year who's a Pitzer alum. It's in the Pitzer at Home series on YouTube. I almost fainted from that because that was like the coolest thing I'd ever experienced. And so you get to have contact with people in politics, but you also bring the skills that you learn in Senate to job applications and to the jobs that you actually perform. So a couple of years ago, I wrote a piece of legislation in Senate asking that we provide naloxone, which is also called Narcan, on campus in case of overdoses. And so when I got to DC and my boss was like, hey, I'm really interested in doing opioid legislation. Can you give more information on like XYZ topics? I was like, yeah, I know how to do a brief on that. I've already done a brief on that. And here's my pitch. So there's a lot of skills that you get from Senate. You don't have to go into politics, but if you do and you end up in DC or New York or anywhere else where there are people who are passionate about changing things and using politics to do that, you will probably find some ex-senators from Pitzer.
I think also to add on, I definitely don't want to go into a career in politics, but I am really passionate about diversity and inclusion work and kind of the organizational side of things. And I think what's really nice about Student Senate is that you get to practice what it's like to exist within an organization, specifically if any of you are interested in org studies, which is a great major on our campus. That's where you're really looking at different organizations and how they run and function, different leadership structures, and how we can be most successful and moving forward in however, like whatever scale the org might be. And I think it's really nice to be involved on campus and have that ability throughout the different orgs I'm a part of to kind of apply the theory I'm learning in my classes into the praxis of actually being in these orgs.
Thank you all for sharing. So we have a really great question from the chat, which is, how do you see everyday students who don't necessarily hold leadership positions or have student government experience engaging with Student Senate and contributing? And then kind of a follow-up, is it easy to get involved on a low commitment level? Kayla, do you want to start?
I would say it really depends. There's different sorts of clubs and organizations that you can be a part of that are kind of related to Senate in different ways, whether that's like asking them for funds for something or planning different events with Student Senate. I would say it's fairly easy to be able to talk to Student Senate. It's of course different in a virtual environment, but we always have our Student Senate meetings on Sundays, and we have something built into the agenda for the meeting called Open Forum. So open forum is a time that anybody in the Pitzer community can come and ask any sorts of questions, voice their opinions on anything, just get to know like who the senators are, whatever that is. And that's a built-in time for people that don't know how Senate works or may not need anything necessarily from Student Senate. They can come in during that time. And that's one way that I feel like we work with people that have lower leadership roles, if you will, low commitment roles. And also in Senate, in terms of committees, I think Jake should probably talk a little bit about that. But I am the junior class rep. So I am, along with Milena, I go to budget committee. And that is like the commitment that I have. And I also attend Senate meetings in general. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah, Jacob, do you want to talk a little bit about that relationship?
Yeah, so in terms of like when it comes to being like a student senator and like serving on a committee, so like that's one thing that like I definitely am trying to work on and like talk with like academic planning committees, like how can we be more accessible also to like the rest of the student body, because like I think like even like some students on academic planning committee at times can feel like overwhelming, like we do so much, and like it's also because like academic planning committee has a lot of like things in their scope, like we're in charge of like faculty like hires, like who are we hiring next, we're in charge of like also like making sure like professors do reviews and like they've been checking up on the department. We also like get given like a lot of like miscellaneous things from like this vaguely relates to academics, give it to academic planning committee. And then we also are like supposed to be in charge of like if we want to like move classrooms around or like move offices around, that also goes to academic planning committee. We're also in charge of like study abroad and like now diversity committee, but that's a whole nother thing that's happening. But no, so like in terms of like getting involved with that though, it's I would really say like there's chairs also for like every single department. So like faculty executive committee has a chair, diversity committee has a chair, academic planning committee, curriculum committee has like chairs or like people that like head the meeting. So like I would really suggest like reach out to that chair. They're really accessible. I found out like I can just go like meet with like the chair of any committee and just be like, tell me about this, you know, and like they're like more than willing to talk to us about it, which is something that I've really come to appreciate. Like my advisor actually like is on the COVID-19 task force with Becca and Kayla and Milena. And so like I was just like, I had like my advising meeting with her earlier today, and I was just like chatting with her about like how's like shared governance for you, like do you like being on the task force? And she was like ranting and raving about like how much she loves being on the task force and like enjoys like hearing like students' perspectives and like all that. So I think it's like there's varying levels of like commitment, and like even like task force are like something that like if a task force opened up or like if you see a need for a task force, like you can always like bring that up to Senate and like start one or propose one. And like that's a lower level of commitment. And there's also like Kayla kind of touched on this, but like organizations and like organizing outside of like student Senate as well. Like if you see change like or something that you want to make different on Pitzer's campus, like you can organize with your friends or like come together with them, like talk through it, and then like come to student Senate and talk to us about that, or like go to like the direct department and be like, hey, like, can you change that? I think that's one thing that I've really come to appreciate about Pitzer is just like the openness for like discussions and like conversations. Like if I have an issue, like I've realized like sometimes like the easiest thing is like not write a piece of legislation, but just literally go talk to like Res Life office about like, hey, can you change this policy? Or like go talk to like curriculum committee and be like, hey, like, can we do this? And they're like, sure. And I don't even have to write legislation. So that's just one thing about like governance is like, yes, we have these like concrete structures that are nice sometimes, but like you don't always have to like work within them. You can kind of do as you wish. But I still think the structure is a lot more fun and gives me a lot more community that I appreciate.
I also will say, as a student completely uninvolved in Senate, like I still know what's going on. Like Senate is incredibly transparent and like does a very good job of letting the student body know like what's going on at meetings, what's going on in general. And that also kind of leads into our next question, which is like, we always know when student Senate election. So what are student Senate elections like? Becca, do you want to start? I know you didn't actually run this year, but I feel like you have.
Yeah, I can start. So hit me up via email if you want to talk about ranked choice voting. Yes, I know, Kayla. I love ranked choice voting, and it's fun because of math, but it's fun because it's also a really equitable system. So basically, we have two different kinds of positions. We have elected positions and appointed positions. The appointed positions, you can apply to more than one, depending on how many positions are open. And you just type up like, hey, here's why I want to be on Senate. Usually when we read those applications, we actually don't really care if you have experience in politics or government or like student government in high school. Yes, it's always a good thing, but it never disqualifies students. And we often get to learn a lot about students by the like more quirky things that they share about themselves. And it's very much a moment where you get to be like, I don't think we have anyone else who, like plays the kazoo and juggles while they do their homework. Like maybe that would be an interesting perspective to add to Senate. And that is something that like a Pitzer student would probably do. But so we have our appointed positions where the executive board makes appointments. And then we have our elected positions, which are, you can apply for both elected and appointed. Our ballots are open for about a week where students get to vote, and you get to rank your candidates in order of preference. So it's not just like a popularity contest, it's actually which candidate has the most overall support from the student body. And if anyone wants a more mathy explanation of that, I can go into it. I can draw you a little chart, but I will spare you that for now.
Thank you for that. Kind of zooming out from just Pitzer Student Senate, how does our Student Senate work with the other 5C Senates? Milena, do you want to talk about this?
I actually don't know that much about it, so maybe I'll.
Oh, never mind. Does someone want to speak on that?
I could talk about it. So historically, there really hasn't been that much cross-campus interaction that goes on, because not only are we our own student governments and we don't vote in the other student governments elections, but we also have like we each have separate tax statuses, so it's difficult for us to fund things the same way, and everyone has different guidelines for how they structure their student government. But then the pandemic happened and we were all kind of put in the same position. So actually over the summer, I was Zooming with the other 5C presidents at least once a week. And we were like, oh my gosh, what's going on with COVID? Like, what are we going to do? What's happening on your campus? And those lines of communication really opened up in a way that they hadn't before, because we quickly recognized that like there was a need to advocate towards a common goal, and that was the health and safety and support for all of our students. So there isn't really a formal structure that goes between the student governments at the 5 colleges, but we have done things together a couple of times over the course of the year. One of those things was advocating for spring break, which was effective, and we got spring break, yay. And then another thing was we did a 5 colleges, 1 cause fundraiser over the summer where we raised money for a bunch of different organizations that support Black Lives Matter related causes, like the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And Pitzer technically cannot do that with our Student Senate money, because our tax status doesn't let us make charitable contributions or like give money to organizations. But Claremont McKenna and Pomona, their tax status lets them do that. So we were able to like come together and organize and say like, this money isn't going through Pitzer's account, so according to the IRS, we're totally fine. But by joining forces with the other colleges, we're able to like collectively take an action that we couldn't do on our own. So hopefully those partnerships continue, and they definitely have continued in our conversations about safe returns for the fall. So I'm hopeful that collaboration will continue when we're back on campus.
Thank you. Kind of going off that, you just mentioned like getting spring break as a Student Senate accomplishment. So I'm just wondering if you guys have like things that you are proud of that you accomplished through Student Senate that you would want to share. So like, yeah, I know Kayla, you talked a little bit about like juniors getting pushing that back, but yeah, if there's other things that you feel like were exciting things to accomplish through Student Senate. Jacob, do you want to start? Or Kayla, you're ready to go.
No, yeah, either one of us, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'll go. Jake's saying this. Okay. I would say yes, the junior class thing. Also this past year, I'm also part of identity board as the BSU representative. And with that, we were talking in identity board about how student senate hasn't always been a historically representative symbolically of all the students that we have on Pitzer's campus. So we were realizing that identity board and student senate, because of the way that we were doing it this year, there were a lot of senators who were on ID board and student senate. So that's how we got all the different things like connected with one another all the time. And so our identity groups were able to know really what's supposed to happen in student senate. So I say all that to say, all three of us, Jake, Melina, and I, we were able to work with ID board and take it to student senate as a proposal to get identity-based positions included on student senate as voting members, and also to kind of reorganize and restructure how our diversity committee on Pitzer's campus works. So that will be in effect next year. Also, I think another thing that I'm personally really proud of is that we were able to create those positions. And then I worked with another person who's on student senate, who's our vice president of finance. And we created like a social media position. So that's like public relations specifically, working with our like Student Life, which is our on-campus newspaper for the 5 Cs. And also another position that is related to, I forget what it's called now, but there's just a lot of different things that you can do within Student Senate, whether it's like making changes within Senate or just trying to change things for the student body as a whole. So I don't know if either one of you also want to add.
No, yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I'd say I agree with Kayla. Like our amendment for 57-A-4 is definitely one of my favorite things that we've done. I was really proud of that, being able to like reevaluate and like restructure like how we as the Senate like are structured, and also like prior to that we also like passed legislation that made it so that like we'd start like collecting like diversity metrics, and like we're like finally like it hasn't passed yet, but we're like hopeful that like Kayla and our vice president of finance really dove into that and like took the initiative, which I'm really thankful for. But like figuring out like how to create that survey, and like we're hopeful that that will pass in the coming weeks. So that's really exciting. And another thing that's like, it's not really like a piece of legislation, but it's kind of cheesy, but we did like a spooky Senate event. And so it basically was like a Halloween event for Senate. And like I was able to like help organize that a bit with like Kayla and Becca and another senator. And so like that was one thing that I've really come to like appreciate, is just like those fun moments that we have in Senate. It was really fun. We like dressed up, did fun like Zoom filters, or wore our costumes and everything. And so that's one thing that like I've really come to appreciate, is like those like fun like bonding moments and like memory makers, I like to call them, that I've been able to have in Senate. Because I feel like a lot of like my best memories from this year, like even though like we've been virtual, have been with the Student Senate.
Yeah, on that, kind of two-part question. What does your like weekly Senate meetings look like, or schedule look like? And then also, how has that kind of changed being online? Like, and does it look like when we're in person? Becca, do you want to start?
Sure. So whenever people ask me about joining Senate, their first question is not like, am I qualified? Will I enjoy it? It's, what is the time commitment? And the thing that I tell literally everyone is, you can spend as much or as little time in Senate as you want, as long as you show up for the meeting on Sundays and show up to your committee meetings. So when I first started on Senate, it really wasn't a super time consuming thing for me. I would go to the Sunday meetings, which usually would run between like an hour and a half at most. And I would go to my committee meeting once a week, which was only like 30 minutes. So you can do that, or you can be a little bit over the top and sign up for as many extra tasks and things as you want. So my typical week, I have the Senate meeting on Sunday, and I meet with usually 1 or 2 students before the meeting if they have questions, and to discuss the agenda with our presiding officer and make sure that she understands everything that's going on, because that's a new role. So helping her learn the role and how to go through the agenda, and making sure like all of the Zoom stuff is set up. Then we have our Senate meeting, and all of our new senators will tell you, I have created forced bonding, which is on some of our agendas when we have like lighter days, to make sure that people on Senate actually get to know each other and be friends with her, because it's something that or be friends with each other, because it's not really something that happens naturally online, but it does happen naturally on campus. So I have added mandatory fun, which no one else calls it that, but that's what I call it. It's fine, in our meetings. And then usually a couple people will just stay after to chat and hang out. And then on Mondays, I usually meet with Mike Sagawa, who is our outgoing vice president of student affairs. And I have our executive board meeting where we go over our strategy for the week. And then there are some like communications subcommittees and COVID task force subcommittees. And sometimes I'll meet with a couple of students who are interested in writing some legislation. I also hold office hours every Wednesday. And recently Kayla and I met with some currently incarcerated students and formerly incarcerated students to figure out how we can get them engaged in Senate and create a new position for them on Senate. So it really varies by the week, but I also have the ability to say, like, I don't have time for this week. I need to do my thesis, like cancel all my meetings, and no one is going to bat an eye or be disappointed or like force me to show up to anything. It's just like, I really love it. And so I sign up for it. So it's definitely different online because you can't just walk to the pit stop and meet with faculty and staff to talk about what you want to talk about. But it works and it's flexible, and I've really had a great time with it.
Yeah, I can chime in as well. I'm definitely on the other spectrum, side of the spectrum in comparison to Becca, but I'm happy to be on this panel with all these great people. But yeah, I definitely joined Senate because I didn't actually have a lot of time, but I still wanted to get involved. So Campus Aesthetics Committee was perfect for me. And that we have bi-weekly meetings, so we're not meeting every week like we would in person. But we still get a lot accomplished through those meetings and kind of managing what is going on at Pitzer, because there's still like different renovations to various buildings on our campus. So it's nice to keep in the loop with that, especially with like guest artists coming to campus too, and kind of installing their work while we're not there. So that when we come back, there's a smooth transition in that sense. Nothing extreme, don't worry, Kayla. But some really cool things that are happening. So that's been really nice for me to kind of like have that more low stakes role in Senate, but still be involved. And then in terms of my other commitments, that means I have time to go to the Student Voice Committee. I'm also on the COVID task force and the Food Services Working Group. So you can have all these pockets of things that you're doing on campus, but again, whatever you're comfortable doing. And it's nice to be able to kind of fluctuate your involvement based on your mental health and your academics, and how there's room for everything, which has been really helpful for me.
Thank you. And then kind of a final question is, why should students join Student Senate? So I know it's very broad, but Kayla, do you want to start?
I always tell people, if they are interested in leadership, by that I mean if you're nosy, please join Student Senate. It is something that's really interesting. You can learn a lot about yourself and like what you're interested in, what your values are. It's also really good to be able to understand and know how Pitzer community works. There's always like something that pops up and people are like, why is this taking so long? It's simply just because that's how bureaucracy is sometimes. And I think that being in Student Senate has made me more hopeful for, I guess, how Pitzer runs, especially even after we leave and graduate and everything. So I definitely would say join Student Senate if you're just interested in it. If you have like an inkling of a thought that you might want to do it, you can do it for just a semester. You can do it for a full year, your entire 4 years, whatever you want it to be. And that's the great part about it, is that you have complete autonomy over your own schedule.
Jacob?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that I think at least once you should always try. At least like run for something. That's a political book that you should also read. Run for something. I read it for my campaigns class, but no, like run for something. No matter what that committee is, like just try for it. It's something that I think will definitely like pay off, and will be able to like teach you whether that's like patience, or whether that's like maybe that you're interested in politics, or that like bureaucracy is really tough and like you understand why like you still have potholes in your city. Like I think that's one thing that like I've been able to like learn from Senate, is like everyone can kind of leave with like whatever they want to take from it, and whether that's just like you don't work well in large groups, or like you work really well in like a small group, you know. Like I think I've learned so much about myself and like who I am as like a person, who I am as a leader through Student Senate. Is that I would really suggest, like if you're interested at all, like push yourself, try something, whether that be like your first year or like your last year. Definitely take the opportunity to just like learn about shared governance and join our Senate.
Yeah, to chime in, I think one of the biggest like life goals of mine is to make an impact on people, and I think Student Senate is a fantastic way to do that. In so many different avenues. You again, like I'm not really into politics, and I love being a part of Student Senate. So you really have that time to figure out like your little spot in Student Senate and make your contribution there. But what's really cool about Pitzer is that you can just like test the boundaries and like test societal norms all the time. Like I always talk about this like socially, like the waving culture. You can wave to strangers at Pitzer, and they will wave back, and you will become friends. And I think that can transfer over very nicely into Senate, where like the world is your oyster. I always like to say that students run the place at Pitzer, and we really do. Like if you want to see something achieved, you're going to be the one to do it, and that's really neat, and your name is going to be there forever. And I think as I'm like a rising senior, like all of us are very well known on campus. I think that's so neat, like to have that impact on people, and just know that like you as like a 21-year-old are like helping to run this huge like institution and like understand the ins and outs. And especially as a younger institution being founded in 1963, like we're like paving the way for future generations and like creating what it means to be a Pitzer student. And a big way you're going to see that is through Student Senate as well.
I absolutely love that you just brought up the waving culture, because that's actually something that I was going to talk about for why I think you should join Student Senate. If you've heard me speak at a Pitzer panel or event before, I'm sorry, because you're going to hear this again. But my favorite thing about Pitzer is the walk from one of the dorms or from the study rooms to the other side of Pitzer's campus, because you really cannot go from one end of campus to the other, and campus is not that big. You really can't make it across campus without being stopped by at least like 3 or 4 super friendly faces and having a conversation and just saying like, how's your day? What's going on? Like, this tree looks really cool today, or whatever it is. But there is something so joyous and wholesome and kind about Pitzer's environment, and being on Senate made me feel like I was a part of that, because I was getting to meet people that I maybe would have been too shy to say hi to otherwise. I definitely can relate to social anxiety. And if I see someone in the supermarket that I went to elementary school with, like I'm going to go in a different aisle, because even though I recognize them, I don't think they recognize me. But at Pitzer, it is totally the opposite environment, where I feel like I've interacted with you at some point in some capacity, and I know that you're going to be kind and like be friendly back to me. And so for me, Senate was like a really great way to open that door and be comfortable in developing those relationships. And I will really value those for the rest of my life. It's a skill that you learn only at Pitzer. So I think you can get it lots of ways. It's not exclusive to Senate, but Senate is a wonderful place to integrate yourself into the community.
Thank you so much for that lovely note to end on. So we're going to take a short 15-minute break. We will be back at 5 with different panelists for a student life panel. Thank you so much to our student senators who took time out of their day to come and talk to us about Student Senate. It was so lovely. You guys are so smart. Best. But yeah, so please take a break, get some water, stretch, go outside for a minute if it's nice where you are, and we will be back in 15 minutes. Kayla and I will still be here, so you get more of us. And yes, this is my cat. Thank you all for dealing with her. But yeah, we'll see you in 15 minutes. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Stella. Can you all hear me? Good. Okay, so I'm a senior. I'm class of 2021, and I'm majoring in combined organizational studies and psychology. And I am an international student coming from Shanghai, China. And my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi, all. I'm Eamon Morris. I'm a junior at Pitzer. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm from Orange, California, and I'm a media studies major and anthropology minor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lily. My pronouns are she, hers. I am a junior at Pitzer, majoring in Asian American Studies and Organizational Studies. And yeah, I think that's all I needed to share. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mahima. I'm a sophomore at Pitzer. I'm studying physics and math. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm from the Bay Area.
Hey everyone, my name is Quentin. I'm a second year at Pitzer. I use the he series pronouns from Chicago, and I am a combined sociology and political studies major.
I'm Olivia. I use she, they pronouns. I'm also from Chicago, and I'm a double major in media studies and performance studies, which is a self-design major.
And I'm Kayla. I use she, her pronouns. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I am a self-design major in foreign language education. So if you have questions about that, feel free to ask. During this panel, you can use the Q&A portion of this webinar, so you can submit any questions that you have, and we will try our best to answer all of them. So for the first question, I'm going to ask, why did you choose Pitzer?
I can start. So I really just fell in love with Pitzer. I initially went on a tour of CMC, didn't go on a tour of Pitzer, but then I walked onto Pitzer's campus and was just like, oh, I'm in love with this place. And then the more I found out about it, the more I continued to fall in love. I really like our core values. So our whole admitted students programming events are surrounding our core values because they are really important to us at Pitzer. And I wanted to go to a school that had a focus on social responsibility and student engagement. And I really have gotten that, which has been really great. And I just am so appreciative for this community, which also definitely inspired me to want to join Pitzer. I talked with current students who really loved it. And so I definitely was a big part of why I chose. Mahia, do you want to share?
Sure. So I went to a very competitive, very grade obsessed high school. So I really wanted to go to a school where students valued collaboration and uplifting each other over competition. And I really found that within the community at Pitzer. There's not this I was able to escape the mindset that my grades determine my worth. And instead of people taking classes just to get an A, people are taking classes because they're genuinely interested in what the class is about and because they're passionate about learning and applying what they're learning in the classroom to the work that they do in the community around them, which is something that I really desperately wanted from a college. And I'm lucky enough to have found it at Pitzer.
Okay, so we're going to go to our next question, which is, what is the easiest way to make friends on campus?
I can go. I think initially, proximity is definitely key. So obviously, your roommate is usually a pretty good match based on the super intense survey that they give you to match you with a person. And then I think Pitzer does a really good job of getting you acclimated to the environment through the first year seminar and through the orientation venture program. Some of my closest friends are from both of those. So I think that's the easiest way because those are things that you have to do. So you really can't avoid making friends that way. So yeah.
I can share as well. I feel like one of my favorite ways to have built a community at Pitzer is probably through affinity groups. So for me, I've been involved with APAC since my first year, APAC and Kappas. Pitzer is one of the few Claremont colleges that does have an administrative office that is specifically a center for Asian Pacific American students, an in-house in-house administrator and sort of community space. And so yeah, just through affinity group spaces like APAC and Kappas, I feel like I've met a lot of my best friends and a really strong community here at Pitzer.
Yeah, kind of on that topic, we got a question, which is, how is social life in terms of interacting with the other Claremont schools? And is it easy/common to have close friends at the other schools? Q, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, I can start this one. I think it's fairly easy, especially because we're able to cross-register at the other Claremont colleges. And so I remember my first semester, I took an intro to sociology class at Pomona, and I just made so many friends from Pomona, Scripps, and CMC. And through those connections, I just built more, was able to make more friends across the consortium by just knowing those certain people and knowing their friends and stuff. And then also through dining halls, because we all share the same dining hall. So everywhere you go, you're not just going to be surrounded around Pitzer students. More than likely, it's going to be a student from one of the other Claremont colleges. And so it's just an easier way for you to make friends since we all are in the same area together.
Yeah, I can also go. I feel like on top of that, there is also 5C student organizations. So for example, I'm part of the debate union since my sophomore year. I'm still joined that even though I'm a senior right now. So you do very intense practice with students from other colleges every other week. And there's also Studio 47, which is a filmmaking space in Pomona. So you do interact with them a lot.
So we have another question here that is, what do you wish Pitzer did better? And I'm gonna send that one to Eamon.
Thanks so much for giving me that question, Kayla. Yeah, I think that, Pitzer could do some things better. I think we'd be lying if we said that Pitzer was perfect. I think sometimes communication can be a little difficult, particularly between all the different departments. Pitzer has a really active student government, which is great, but sometimes all that bureaucracy can be complicated and decisions can be made without everyone knowing of them. And that can definitely be frustrating sometimes. So yeah, I think communication could definitely be better in some cases.
I can kind of add on to what Eamon was saying about like communication and like Pitzer structure. I was totally reflecting on this earlier today, but Pitzer, I feel like, is really like always sort of like balancing like this fine line between being extremely autonomous, like students have a lot of autonomy and like a lot of agency, and at the same time, it's like institutionalization as well. And so like something I've like had a conversation with one of like the staff members at Pitzer about was sort of like, because there's so much autonomy and agency and like creating certain programs or like making certain things happen, and it's like really like a huge part of it is like an effort of like an individual or a student. It's sort of like what happens to like that program if the student graduates or when the student leaves or something like that. And so I think that's one of the things about like being in a place where that's very like heavily community based. And so you have so much agency to enact change or to put on the events that you're interested in and like do what you really want to do, legislation, whatever it is. But how do we make sure that it is really like a sustainable practice that will like really last? So yeah.
Thank you. Another question we got is it easy to find alone time and privacy on campus? And what are your favorite spots on campus? I can start. I really love the Grove House, which is kind of our oldest building on campus. It's a different style than all of our other buildings. So it has like a lot of nooks and crannies. It's just kind of a weird building, but there's a lot of different spaces where you can kind of go. There's a little library. It's just a really great spot on campus if you are looking for alone time. I also, in general, our campus is really nice. We have a lot of nature, so there's a lot of spaces to kind of wander. But we are a very social school, so it's definitely important to find time to be alone and get that if you need it, and you're definitely able to. Kind of on a similar idea is favorite spots in the Claremont Village. Mahima, do you want to start?
Sure. I just want to jump back to the previous question really quick. One of my favorite places for alone time on campus is the Mead Library. Not a ton of people use it / know about it. So it's never usually very crowded, and it's got like these really comfortable couches, and it's always really quiet in there. So you can go and like get work done if you want to sit at the desks, but I would also go in there and like take naps all the time when I just like didn't want to go back to my room because my roommate was in there. So yeah, I love the Mead Library. About the Claremont Village though, I honestly feel like I just love walking around like outside. It's a really great way to kind of like get off of campus, but like and like feel like a part of Claremont, and like have a little bit of a change of scenery without putting in too much effort because it's only about 15-minute walk from the Pitzer dorms. And I used to really love just going to like a coffee or like a tea place in the village and like hanging out if I was like sick of the library or something and I just wanted to do my work in like a new place that was like maybe a little bit more loud around me, then those are definitely like my go-to places. But there's also plenty of like really nice restaurants there that I would go and like get dinner with friends on the weekends when I wanted, again, like a little bit of a change of pace.
Okay. So thank you, Mahima. So we're going to go to our next question, which is, how was the transition from high school to college with Pitzer? What is one thing you wish you knew about yourself before attending Pitzer? I'm going to send that one to Quentin.
Of course. I say this in all of my tours also. So coming from Chicago, I'm not used to like being surrounded around so many friendly people, I would say. And so when I first came to Pitzer, I was really like, oh, okay, like these people are really friendly. And I was just looking kind of sideways, but that's just because like where I come from, people are not as friendly. But I will say the transition from high school to just getting acclimated to Pitzer, it was really hard at the beginning. But once I started to understand like these people are genuinely just friendly like that, and they wanna get to know you, and they want to know the different things that you're interested in, it made me more comfortable on campus. And so once I understood like that was their intention, it just made everything so much better. And I will say coming to Pitzer has been life-changing for me, especially in the way I look at different things and stuff. And what was the second part of that question? What is one thing you wish you knew about yourself before? Was that it? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I like not knowing that part of myself before I came to Pitzer, and just like getting to know myself more throughout my tenure at Pitzer. So yeah.
I'm also going to send that question to Stella as well, since she's an international student.
Yeah, of course. So I would say the transition maybe for me is a bit different from others because first of all, I have to adjust the language. I have to adapt into, before in China, I speak Mandarin every day. Now I have to speak English kind of every day. So that was a bit not difficult, but I need time to adjust that. But I would say Pitzer has amazing resources to back it up. Like this orientation adventure group has really been amazing because they really help you out. And also for international students, there's also special international orientation for us as well. So international students do start a week earlier than anyone else. So that is great. And what is one thing you knew about yours? Yeah, so I would say for the second part of the question, I wish I knew like if I want something, if I needed some kind of resources, I would kind of ask for it instead of just waiting for someone to feed it to me. I feel like that's a very big mindset change from high school to colleges. You really need to start to go out and explore what you really need.
That's a great answer. And I also really like your matching backgrounds. This is a question that I love. What would you say Pitzer's vibe is? Millie, do you want to start?
Yeah, Pitzer's vibe, I think, especially like, yeah, Pitzer's vibe is definitely, I feel like, very quirky, like very counterculture. We say on our tours, Pitzer was founded in the 60s during the time of the civil rights movement. So we're really reflective of like that climate of the time of, like student organizing, like students challenging the status quo, like taking agency, taking action. Social justice was one of our core values. So I remember like even the first time I stepped on campus, like you really get a sense that like this is a very creative campus, this is a very like socially aware, environmentally sustainable campus. So I would definitely say that's what Pitzer's vibe is.
I also think I want to add to that too. If you were here for the session that we just had before, and you listened to Milena speak, one thing that she always says is that like Pitzer is like all the students that were the Fruit Loops in their like group of Cheerios, and then when you came to Pitzer, you came a bowl of Fruit Loops. So that's what she says all the time. Like Pitzer students are really interesting, and they're always the ones that are standing out. But when you come to Pitzer's campus, like we're all standing out together in a way. So it always feels like you're having a good support system. There's a question that I really liked on this one. So what mistakes did you feel you made in your first year that you would advise us not to do? So they also put mistakes in quotations, which I think is important to say.
I'll answer this one. I think I made a ton of mistakes my freshman year. I have so many regrets. But I think like the biggest mistakes you can make are, settling. Just saying this is it. All right, I have my major decided. I'm only going to take these classes. I'm only going to hang out with these people, and I'm only going to be in these clubs. I think that can be a huge mistake. I think it can make you kind of jaded and limit yourself. But during my sophomore year, I kind of started to expand my friend group and talk to new people and take classes that I hadn't considered. And that was what made me decide on my major of media studies and minor in anthro. I think you can have a certain idea for yourself going into college, and you might be 100% fine following that roadmap all the way through to graduation. But I mean, this is like your one shot to try new things and take classes and topics that you really have never heard of. So I say take it. That's my favorite grad.
I also feel like there's another question, which is kind of like, if everyone stands out, how does it not feel like you get lost in that? Which I feel like is like a super valid worry, but I think just doesn't happen because Pitzer so embraces like everyone having their own passions. And so there's a lot of support to do what you're interested in and find your niche, but it's not necessarily getting lost in it. Like, I mean, we've been doing a lot of panels, and every panel I'm like, every person we have is the coolest person, like, because everyone does so much and does such unique things and things they're so excited about. But you can't really get lost in that because you are also doing those things. So yeah, like as Eamon said, just like being very open about doing that and like committing to the things you're interested in. One of my friends is always just like, you don't have to pretend to be interested in things you're not. Be interested in the things you are, and like tell people that, because you will find your people. And also if you lie, you will find someone who's really into that thing, and then you'll be on a terrible backpacking trip that you don't want to be on. And like that's just the energy, is like you will find your people. So make sure that you're being open about who you want that to be, which is great. And that can change. It's just really exciting. Like I think that's a really great aspect of Pitzer. Kind of switching gears, I've had a few different questions about kind of like nightlife, what parties are like, what weekends are like. Stella, do you want to talk about kind of what on-campus vibes are like on weekends?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, so not only do we have like, those different festivals, like CMC would have private parties, Pitzer would have music festivals, but I say in general, there are a lot of student organizations activities as well. Like Pitzer Outdoor Activities is a great example. They would have meetings every week and decide where you want to go every weekend. And the great thing about that is the organization is going to fully fund everything from your gas money to every equipment that you would need in your camping. So I think that's the highlight of my experience. And other than that, I would say a lot of affinity groups sometimes do field trips as well to take you to Los Angeles. And that's definitely save you a lot of money, and you would have a group of friends to go with you. So that's also pretty amazing.
There was a question in the chat that was talking about the Claremont bubble. They're specifically asking, would you recommend having a car, and what modes of transportation are there for students? So if any of you would like to share your experience, if you have a car, if not. I know Eamon's local, so I'm going to pick on Eamon.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I don't think you need a car on campus. To get to the train station, it's like maybe a 25-minute walk, less if you're biking, scootering, or skateboarding. And then it's less than an hour into LA. Pitzer also has vans that you're eligible to rent. You just have to have a driver's license and fill out some forms so you can drive it. I've done that before. That was super empowering. I've never driven like big old chunky van, so that was pretty cool. And I think they have Zip cars, which are kind of like rental cars on campus too. I've never used those. I think Zipcar rejected my application, but it's okay. The past is in the past, I guess. I forgive them. But it is also totally possible to have a car on campus. I think you can have one, no questions asked, junior, senior year. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But before that, you need a permit, and those are typically given, for extenuating circumstances, like you have a doctor in the area that you need to frequently visit, you have a religious service that you need to attend, stuff like that.
There's also lots of modes of transportation that are just skateboards and scooters and roller skates and just the clown committee on tiny scooters. Two questions that are kind of related are, does Pitzer ever feel kind of claustrophobic because of how small it is? And then also, does Claremont as such a small town kind of feel sleepy, or is there enough going on with the campus community? Millie, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I definitely felt this in my first year at Pitzer. Claremont, the Claremont colleges are very insular, which you will you will notice like immediately. It's like everything that you need, you know, for like social life, you know, school, like the books that you need, everything's like sort of on campus. And so like I know like there's like people who like live in Claremont and they're like, yeah, like there's not like we're not like, I'm like, oh my God, is it loud all the time? Like do you constantly have to deal with like college students running around? They're like, no, like Claremont colleges are very insular. So in that sense, I have definitely felt that way, especially in my first year. But I also feel like it's a lot of like growing into like a sense of home for you. And also there's a lot of opportunities to get off campus as well. Like in my first year, like I would go to LA, I would take the train to LA sometimes. Like if you have friends at like universities in like the city of LA, like you can take a train out to see them. You can go to the village, you can maybe like visit the neighboring cities in the Inland Empire and things like that. So there's definitely like ways for it to feel very big, and there's also like ways for it to feel a little bit small. And so it just kind of like depends on how you make it a home for yourself.
We have another question that it's very simple. It is 4 words. Is the food good? So I'm going to hand this to Mahima.
1 word, yeah, it's great. I love the food. Like McConnell has like great food that's like Pitzer's own dining hall. Really, like I would go to McConnell most often out of like all of the dining halls at the 5Cs, but like you do definitely have the option to go, and you can like use there's like an app that will tell you like the menu for each dining hall on any given day. So you can like check the menus and like decide what food sounds best to you and like decide where to go. All of like, along with having like different food, all of the different dining halls have like a completely different vibe too. So like if you really want to like sit outside on the grass, like maybe you'd go to Scripps dining hall, or like you know, Pitzer is like more like closer to the dorm, so it might like feel more like home. You'll see a lot of more Pitzer people there. But yeah, like you really have like plenty of options, and the food is good at like all of the dining halls. And like definitely because you have like the app and you can check where you want to go, like you have a lot of liberty to like choose like what specific meal you want, so you don't have to ever feel like you're stuck like eating only what one dining hall has to offer.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just
Billy.
want to add, yeah, sorry. One thing that I think US News just ranked Pitzer as number 4 in the best campus food around the US. So that's definitely worth it. And I would say if you have any dietary restrictions, you can also alert the dining hall events and they can make you custom-made food as well.
Our next question is about experiences with students doing research with faculty. Q, do you want to take this one?
I can take that one. So I did research with my sociology professor, and so it was essentially an analysis on institutional inclusivity at the Claremont colleges, kind of seeing how they extend diversity to inclusion for specifically Black and Latinx students. And so through that relationship that I was able to foster with that professor, I was able to learn how to like apply to summer research programs and get networks and just learn how to kind of put myself out there. And so I say all of that just to say through that specific research opportunity that I got at the Claremont colleges, this summer I will be like conducting research at Harvard. And so if it wasn't for that specific professor and that research that I did, I probably would not have had the opportunity to, you know, be at Harvard this summer. So you definitely have a lot of opportunities to engage with professors, especially in things that you are interested in, and if it intersects with the specific professor that you are interested in working with.
Congratulations, Quentin. So there's another question that is, one thing I really didn't like about high school was constantly feeling like I had to prove myself. Did you feel like that culture exists at Pitzer, especially in the classes with other schools? I'm going to ask Millie and Mahima to ask this, with Millie going first.
Yeah, I also felt similarly to that when I went to high school. Like when Mahima was talking about her high school experience, I'm like, yeah, same, like rigid, competitive, like measured achievement, like all those things. I know them. But at Pitzer, I really feel like it changed my entire view of like education. And I don't really feel like a sense of like, oh, I need to prove myself, because it's like the education is about like us all being valuable members of like this classroom dynamic. Like, like we like sit in it, we sit like around a table, and like everything that we have to say is valuable. Like we are all like we all kind of like possess great amounts of knowledge, and like the professor like is sitting at the table with you. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not like a sense of like, oh, like the professor is just lecturing at you guys, at us, and like we don't know anything. If anything, I feel like we're constantly encouraged to think critically and like bring in the wealth of knowledge that like we all possess into all the classes that we have. And it's not competitive at all, because we like, we are learning from each other constantly. And learning isn't like linear. It's always, it's like a matter of like a lot of like personal growth and like critical thinking. Application. Yeah.
Yeah, Millie might as well have taken the words right out of my mouth. But I completely agree with everything she said. I will also say, like, kind of speaking to the question from before about like mistakes we made during our freshman year, I feel like the biggest mistake I made was thinking that I needed to prove myself, and like thinking that I needed to, I don't know, set myself apart from everyone else in some grand way. Because like we mentioned before, like that was what my high school was like. But honestly, like my whole first semester would have been just so much more pleasant for me if I had like realized a little bit sooner that like that's not what Pitzer is about. That's not what the community wants from you. They want to accept you like as you are, and they just want you to like be your most authentic self, as cheesy as that sounds. Like, but that's really what it is. And it took me a little while to really see that and like understand that that was something that could exist, because everything I'd encountered before in high school and whatnot was so based off of me needing to like stand out and set myself apart from everyone else. So yeah, it took a little bit of adjustment, but definitely since kind of embracing that more sort of relaxed way of just, like I'm going to do what I need to do and what I want to do. And I'm going to be able to find people who love me and accept me for doing those things no matter what. And, I was able to find that. So like, I think that's part of the reason why I like value my friends at Pitzer so much, and why I have such a feeling of like being at home on campus, is because I was able to find that support system for people who genuinely, truly accept you without like any sort of extravagant, like gesture to quote unquote prove yourself.
Thank you. So another question is just very generally, how is dorm life? So if someone wants to explain like kind of briefly what the dorms are like, and then kind of what dorm life is like, that would be great. Q, do you want to do it since you have the dorms behind you?
Yes, I can. I always like kind of mess up when I explain a dorm, but essentially it's you and your roommate, and then on the other end is your suite mates basically. So 2 people on each side of the room, and then in between you have the bathroom. So it's basically suite style. 4 of you share the bathroom, but 2 of you are in a room. Dorm life for me specifically was really good. I chose my roommate because me and my roommate met each other through the diversity program that Pitzer Office of Admission holds. But essentially, you are in the same complex as all other first years. And so it kind of makes you more prone to making friends, I would say, just because everyone in that same vicinity will be a first year. So if you see someone, more than likely they're going to be in your class. And also they have indoor and outdoor study rooms on every single floor of the dorm rooms. And so it's just another way for you to, engage with your classmates. And yeah, so I really like dorm life. Me and my roommate did not stay in the dorm a lot. Like we were always outside at the other colleges or just walking around Pitzer. So only time I was in a dorm was when I was going to sleep. So if anyone else can speak more, if you stayed in the dorm a lot.
Okay, so we have a question that is about the relationships between the upperclassmen and the first years. So how willing and helpful are upperclassmen to the underclassmen? And can you share your experience of like mentoring or anything like that?
I can start with this one. I would say like super, super helpful. I think one of the main reasons I was able to adjust to being at Pitzer like as quickly as I did was because of the help of the upperclassmen and like just like the sophomores that I had met when I was a freshman. One of the biggest like support systems for me during my freshman year was one of my OA leaders who was a sophomore at the time, Milena, who was previously mentioned. She also works as a tour guide. Yeah, she was like so, and all of my other OA leaders as well were always so ready to like help me out with anything that I needed. And she actually like helped me through class registration. Like the first time I was so stressed about it because I had like a really late time and I'd never done anything like that before. So she offered to just like sit next to me and like support me like emotionally while doing it, which was like such a big help and like something that I definitely didn't expect anyone to do for me. And just in general throughout the year, like I always found that I was able to reach out to like the upperclassmen in my classes and like people that I had met like just on campus whenever I needed a hand or whenever I had a question about how something worked, and they were all really receptive and just so willing to help.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Mahima just said, I kind of feel like the upperclassmen, specifically the ones that are even on his panel, like Millie was my orientation leader, Olivia was my academic guide, and Kayla has been a mentor to me since I even started at Pitzer. And so I will say, like, just by that specific example, upperclassmen are just so willing to help, and whether it be academically, socially, or just helping you navigate the campus, I will say upperclassmen are just very helpful and they will actually want to help you. So yeah.
I also wanted to speak to this because Stella was actually one of my orientation leaders for the LA Food and Culture orientation trip. And I think like the care to, help out underclassmen is almost very cyclical, because I think being helped kind of encourages you to like help out and mentor other students. I think like most Pitzer students genuinely care about the students that come after them. So like after Stella led my orientation trip, the next year I led that orientation trip with another one of the people that was on it. So yeah, I think upperclassmen are really helpful.
Yeah, in general, I feel like I said it a little bit about why I chose Pitzer, but just like the community at Pitzer is so wonderful in general. And I think like all of the connections we have between us, which is like a very random group of people, like speaks to that as well. So we got another question that's kind of about the relationship between Pitzer students and students from other colleges. So people are just wondering, like, outside of just like classes and things like that, how we interact with the other colleges. I feel like a helpful thing to understand is that we're kind of essentially one campus, because we're only about a square mile big and all of the colleges are on that, which is hard to visualize if you haven't been here, or like even looking at a map, it isn't as clear, but we're very connected in that way. So like as Q spoke about with the connections between other colleges, part of it is also we share a lot of resources, but we also literally share a lot of space. So I think that is kind of another relationship that we have with the other colleges. Someone else want to speak more to that?
I mean, I guess I'll just add that we also all party together. So whenever it was a party on, whether it be Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, like my friends from Pomona, friends from Mud, friends from Scripps, friends from like CMC, we would all just come together and just go to parties together. So everything we do, essentially, like Olivia said, everything is kind of like as one.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask another question, which is, at Pitzer specifically, what is one thing that you wish you had done differently in your application process?
I can answer this one. I was actually a waitlist admin at Pitzer, so yeah. So I guess something that I wish I had done differently was I definitely wish I showed more demonstrated interest. Yeah, I wish I showed more demonstrated interest. I wish I'd visited campus more, interacted with current students more, and just like things of that sort. And yeah, just know that like it's like we're like a very like tight knit community, and like we're all like very, I think, personable. We're human. It's a very human campus, and like yeah, feel free to like be in contact with any of us.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stella, you go.
Sorry. I guess adding on to that, I would do like an interview with one of the admission fellow or a alum, because I feel like even interview is not really heavily like scored in your whole application. It doesn't really mean like a lot, but it's a great way for you to understand what Pitzer is like through a student's perspective. And sometimes it may be hard for you to find those individuals on the internet, but through those kind of interview format, it's a great way for you to also interview the school as well, because I feel like choosing school is a two-way street. You also need to feel like you are getting yourself into the right place.
Another question we've got is, what has been a favorite class that you have had at Pitzer? Eamon, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, this is actually a tough question because I have like a lot of favorite classes and I feel like I'm betraying the other ones when I choose one. But actually one of the things that I really value about Pitzer is the summer class program. So you can take classes over the summer in either 2-week programs or 6-week programs. I took a 2-week long course. It was one of the most difficult things of my life because it's like class every single day for like 5 hours because you got to fit in a ton of information in just 2 weeks. But it was a course on propaganda taught by Andre Wakefield. And it was super interesting. And it made me like reevaluate my relationship to media and to everything that I consume, like from the entertainment industry on a big scale. It made me question a lot of things, but yeah, that was one of my favorite classes.
I can also talk about one of my favorite classes. I think my favorite class that I've ever taken is it's called College Inside Out. And so it's part of the Inside Out program, where if you might have seen it on the website, but the Inside Out program, basically Claremont College's students can take students alongside currently incarcerated students. And College Inside Out was with Professor Barbara Junisby, also specifically Professor Barbara Junisby, because she is absolutely incredible. She's an organizational studies professor and like just like the light of so many students' lives. And this class was just really cool because I feel like I was getting to like talk to people from all different walks of life, people who had like all these different experiences. And then we were kind of re-envisioning like what education like means to us, so what higher education means to us, whether or not you've had like a traditional like higher education path or a non-traditional higher education path. And this class was just so human, you know, like there was like times when like we'd like sit in a circle and like we'd get like emotional, like talking about like things that like sharing aspects of our lives, our stories. And so this class I think really like changed me. Like it really changed me a lot. So yeah.
That sounds beautiful. I've definitely had classes like that too at Pitzer. Going into another question, it was related to classes actually. So do you have any advice on picking classes as a first year?
I would say don't be upset if you don't get your first choice. You have, sorry, I need to do some quick counting here. 7 other semesters after your first semester. Sorry, I'm really bad at math. And that was really sad. But yeah, don't be upset if you don't get your first choice. You have plenty of time to take that class. Usually professors repeat classes every other semester or even every semester. And I'll also say when you're picking classes, pick whatever seems most interesting to you. And then pick some things that you would never take, because that can be valuable too and can open your eyes to like completely new fields of study. And also, if you're wondering if you're also bad at math, one of our requirements is that you take a quantitative reasoning class, which is basically like a math course. And I took a history of math course, which is why I have not done any math since high school. So yeah.
Also, to go along with what Eamon just said, I personally love sharing the story of how I got to the major that I am. I was saying earlier, I'm a foreign language education major, so I study Italian and Spanish and just principles of learning and teaching languages. And the only reason why I ended up taking my first class that was related to that major is simply because I had a bad registration time. I got like intro to Italian studies in my first semester of my first year, and I would not have the opportunities that I have had like if I didn't have a bad registration time. So definitely lean into just new studies of different things that you've never even heard of and try out different courses. That's the beauty of Pitzer. You don't have to declare your major until your second semester or your first semester of your junior year. So you have a lot of time and there's so many different fields that you can look into. And also while you're doing all of that, those classes can often count towards your graduation requirements. So I highly suggest just trying new things.
Just to like add on to what Kayla said real quick about sometimes how like you end up in things like by chance. One of my favorite classes that I ever took at Pitzer, another favorite class, was pop culture in South and Southeast Asia with Professor Gladys Nubla. And that class, I think on the portal, it had like a ton. It was a small class, but it had a ton of perms. So like clearly like a lot of people wanted to be in it. And the professor was the professor like didn't accept people's perms very early on. And so I think a lot of people were sort of like, oh no, like I can't get into this class. So kind of just like let it go. And then by the time the class actually started, it was so small. It was only like 5 students. And so one of my friends was like, oh, you should join this class. And the class ended up being amazing, especially because it was like such a tiny class. It was just 6 students. And like we would literally go on, like we went to like trips to like Orange County and like got food and like got like Vietnamese food in like Little Saigon, and like we went and watched a play together. It was so fun. And like that's like chance, you know. I think a lot of people were like, oh, I'm not gonna get this class, so like, you know, moved on. But yeah, super good.
Another question is, what are some of your favorite on-campus clubs and student groups? Whoever wants to start can take this one.
I'll go. I'm on the Claremont climbing team, which is not as like competitive and crazy as it sounds. We just go to climbing gyms in the area a couple times a week and do climbs together. And we also do like social events and go on climbing trips outdoors occasionally. And sometimes they do competitions. But I love climbing. If you come to Claremont, I highly suggest trying it out. Or even if you don't come to Claremont, there are climbing gyms everywhere. And it's like one of the most fun things you can do. You don't need to have any hand-eye or hand-eye coordination or math skills to do it. So would promote.
Okay, so we're gonna go to our last question, and maybe all of you can answer this one. What is your favorite thing about Pitzer? We'll start with Quentin.
Thank you, Kayla. I think my favorite thing at Pitzer, and this is going to sound really cliche, but I would say the friends that I was able to make just across Pitzer and even across the Claremont colleges. There are so many people that come from a diverse background and just have such a diverse array of interests that I found interest in the things that other people are interested in just because they're so passionate about it at Pitzer. And that's one thing that I thrive off of, especially just hearing someone talk about something they're really interested in. And so many Pitzer students are just like, I want to do this, I'm interested in this. And I would just honestly say the people, the friends, the mentors, and just everything I've gotten from Pitzer. So overall, the people, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like the friends that I've made at Pitzer just like mean so much to me. And I think like the way that Pitzer structures like the opportunities to meet people during your freshman year is just so incredible. And like like many of those reasons are like why I have the friends that I have, like through OA and things like that. So that was definitely like a really big positive for me, just like that first year on campus. And then also like Quentin kind of talked about like the mentors that I've met, like the professors that I've been able to develop relationships with that have helped me through so much, both academically and personally, and have just been such incredible like resources for information and like great support systems. So yeah, just like the community and how willing everyone is to like get to know each other and to support each other and like motivate each other.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. And I would say professors are definitely the most impactful thing on me. Like my advisor is Robert Junisubai. Millie just talked about her. And I can literally just call her up FaceTime right now and she would definitely pick it up. That's how like close we are. So I feel like that's pretty unique at a university. And also in a pandemic, the care from the professor is still going on. And my professor would write us cards and because they know that we're going through a hard time. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't want to be unoriginal, but definitely the people, like the people are the best part about Pitzer, particularly how they show up for each other as a community. I think especially when the pandemic happened, you saw like mutual aid funds go all over, like people from all the Claremont colleges were helping each other out. And I think that's something really special that you don't really see at like massive communities like UCLA or USC or other big schools. So yeah, the people are great and they genuinely care about each other.
My response is the very like social justice oriented community, also the people. So yeah, I think this is I think like at Pitzer, I've been able to meet people who have really like expanded my worldview, pushed me to like think outside the box and be critical. And so yeah, I love the community at Pitzer.
Thank you all so much for your time. That's going to be our last question for right now. We're going to take a little break before coming back. So at 6 p.m. Pacific time, we have student affairs coming in to kind of talk about student affairs programming and student engagement. So it'll be really great. And then after that, we have a career services chat. I know some people asked some questions about jobs and internships, so we can learn more about that at Pitzer at 6:30. So we'll see you guys back here at 6, take a little break. Walk around, get a snack, drink water, all that good stuff. And thank you so much to our student life panelists. It was great to see all your faces. Bye.
Welcome back from the break. If you were sitting around the Zoom session, that was quite the jam and music. We appreciate that. My name is Kirsten Carrier. I'm one of our Associate Deans of Students and the Director of Residence Life and Conference Services. And you're joining us for a session on co-curriculum, student engagement, student activities, kind of how can you get involved at Pitzer. I know you're doing a lot of student engagement stuff today, so that's what we're going to keep talking about. I've got two other folks with me today. I'll have Elena go first and then Tasmia next.
I am Elena Session-Goins. I'm also an Associate Dean of Students and Director of Campus Life. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I've been at Pitzer for 10 years this June.
Hi all, my name is Tasmia. I'm actually the first year residence director, so you all will be possibly living with me. And my pronouns are she, hers, and I've been here for about 2 years. I've lost track of time this past year.
Time is irrelevant at the moment, but yes. Thanks, Elena and Tasmia. Yes, this is our dynamic team here for the first year experience. What does it mean to be on campus as a new student? And in particular, for us in residence life, what does it mean to hopefully, live in these beautiful residence halls behind me here in Pitzer, Atherton, Sanborn, and Scandera halls next fall. We are hopefully going to focus most of our presentation and conversation today on the co-curriculum. And the co-curriculum is basically all the great activities, interactions that happen with all of us in student affairs outside of the classroom. And so we are going to save all of our questions on, logistics for residence life and move-in and orientation and all that for a session that we're doing for you all on April 23rd, later in the schedule. And so we are going to focus on more of the programmatic stuff here up front. So I kind of talked about who's involved. Student Affairs is the one that runs our co-curriculum, and it really is co-led as a partnership between Residence Life and Campus Life. Residence Life, again, are the folks who run our residence halls and have our lovely RA staff, our resident assistants, help us complete our end of the co-curriculum through programming in the halls, around the halls, and around campus, of course. And of course, we're again partnered with Campus Life. So Elena, I want to talk a little bit more about Campus Life.
Yeah, so campus life, our purpose is to help students get engaged on campus, and that is seen in many different ways. It's everything from attending programming and, co-curricular activities to student organizations, student governance, and supporting our student senate. Programming, we are excited to have students in person and create opportunities for students to just meet new people, as well as we run our new student orientation program, and we're based out of the Gold Student Health and Wellness Center, which is home to our fitness center. And so campus life is there to just help get students connected, as is the rest of the Office of Student Affairs.
And as Elena just said there, we're really excited to bring our entire community back to campus this fall. Obviously excited to meet you all and hopefully welcome you to our campus as well. I would be remiss if I didn't start by saying, what we used to do before the pandemic, what we have been doing during the pandemic, and what we're going to do this fall. All three of those things are probably a little bit different. And so what we used to do on campus in terms of large scale programs and how we interacted with students and how we connected folks is different than what we've been doing this past year in an entirely virtual format. We've been able to move a lot of our programs into that virtual realm and learning a lot of new skills and helping our students connect in virtual ways. But coming back from the pandemic, it's just another chance for us to kind of reintegrate and figure out how are we going to connect in person? How are we going to connect safely? Making sure we're, not gathering in too big of groups and things like that, respecting all of our social distancing protocols and things like that. So it's going to be important for us to do some more reinvention, and we hope you all are kind of along with us on that journey to figure out how do we want to redefine campus. And it's a really exciting time to be back on campus. There's a lot of folks that are excited to see new things happen and really initiatives move forward that have been different in this past year. So a lot of excitement there. And for us in student affairs, a lot of that excitement comes from the co-curriculum. It is a new endeavor for us. It's something that we started before the pandemic in just residence life. During the pandemic, it made a lot of sense for us to come together as an entire Office of Student Affairs and talk about how do we coordinate across our division so that we're not stepping on each other's toes, that we know what the left hand, the right hand are doing, and we're able to really fully take advantage of a student experience on campus. And so that means we have a co-curriculum with different goal areas that really try to emulate the holistic nature of our student experience, from student engagement, like we talked about in campus life area, individual development, that includes career services, kind of investments, kind of finding out what's your pathway in life. And we're going to hear a little bit more from career services after this. And hopefully those goal areas are things that you all can contribute to as well and decide, does this make sense? And how can we help you achieve what you want to achieve on campus? I wanted to do some more screen sharing here. It looks like I don't have the ability to do that right now. If somebody can get me access to screen share, that'd be cool. I was going to show you all some graphics of our co-curriculum and who our staff are, so you can kind of connect some names with faces of folks you might be seeing over the course of the summer in various communications about residence life or housing in the fall and about the move back to campus. There we go. Thank you. Love it. Somebody may gave me access. And of course, now I can't find the screen. There it is. All right. So here's the whole Res Life team. These are the professional staff in residence life. I wanted to at least point out you're going to be getting a lot of communications, especially on housing selection stuff from our Josh and Brianna team in the housing office. But Tasmia is your go-to here in the first year complex, your residence director. She lives in the building. She gets to be up at all hours of the night with you all, connecting and trying to find ways for you to meet each other in safe and fun ways, of course. We have our wonderful RA staff, our resident assistants. They're called community assistants this year in the virtual environment, but you'll get to meet them on move-in day. You'll have a chance to connect together as a floor as well and meet your fellow floor mates, your suite mates, your roommates, start kind of establishing what kind of community do you want to have? How do you communicate with each other? What kind of interactions do you want to have? Do you want to, try to go eat on the mounds together for meals? All those ways that we want you to hopefully start connecting with each other. Our RAs also do class-based programming with TASME in the residence halls and in the Pitzer, Athens, Sanborn, and Scandera complex. And they're just a great bunch of student leaders. It's something that we hope that some of you will consider in your sophomore year as you move past that first year experience. So that's a little bit, I guess, about our co-curriculum, that big picture of student affairs collaborating to make sure that we have learning happening in our 5 goal areas, and the folks behind all the action. I'm gonna hand it off to Elena to talk a little bit more about campus life's role.
Yeah, so as far as campus life goes, I think your first interaction with campus life is going to be through our new student orientation program. And the new student orientation program is really meant to help welcome all of our new students to campus. This year, we're going to have a first year new student orientation as well as a returning new student orientation for all the folks who have been virtual this year and are still new to the community. And so that is going to be your first interaction. We have actually 2 student leader positions that you will be interacting with directly as a new student. One is our academic guides. Those are upperclassmen or upper class student leaders who are there to truly guide you through your academic transition. They will kind of start in August and help you figure out the class situation, registration, placement tests, all of those kind of things that are gonna, be about your academic transition. And then for the first semester, they're just gonna be providing check-ins with you, reminders, opportunities for you in your first year seminar to just check in with each other and see how it's going. How's your first big paper going? So on and so forth. So that's one position that you get to interact with as a new student. The other is an orientation leaders. You are going to be kind of in a small group of students for your first week on campus, and you'll be going to sessions together. You'll be having orientation adventures with the group, hearing about important topics that we value at Pitzer, getting to kind of seek the campus and the surrounding areas. So your orientation leaders are also going to serve as kind of like on the ground, your on the ground resource during that initial transition. There's a lot of other student leaders that you're going to be interacting with on campus, but those are 2 of the ones that we have in our campus life program. And then additionally for you, once you get here, we want you to get involved. And there's going to be a ton of ways to get involved. Just a couple of the ways that you can get involved kind of from a campus life perspective is Student Senate. I think you heard from them earlier today. They have a first year rep position that they have that sits on their student governance. So that's one way. There's also tends to be other Student Senate positions that open up that they have elections for. And so that might be one way. Another way is through our student orgs program. There's about 50 or 60 Pitzer clubs. And then we also have 5C student organizations. And so there's a ton of ways to get involved in our student organizations. And Campus Life is there to kind of help students figure out like what they might be interested in. And then the last thing is we actually want all of our new students to have the opportunity to kind of create new events and new opportunities to bond with each other. And so we are going to be creating a new Campus Life programming assistant position. And that might be an opportunity for you to get involved right when you get to campus and have some input into what you would like to see happen on campus. So those are just a few of the ways that you can get involved, as well as some of the ways that you'll interact with Pitzer student leaders.
Awesome. So here's my part. And this is like the exciting stuff about all the events that we have on our campus. One thing to note is that things will look a little different due to COVID, but like Elena mentioned, we're trying to make the experience as fun and safe for you all as we can. So some of the programs that we have from the Res Life perspective, we do collaborate with Campus Life, and you're going to see a lot more collaboration this upcoming year. But specifically, Kirsten mentioned some of our goals, which is like wellness, community building, educational engagement, individual development, and diversity and inclusion. So some of the programs around that, they range from like, having a slime night, and literally you're making slime with your residents or with the people on the floor with you, or you're making mocktails, or we're doing vision boards together. There's also like yoga nights that some of our RAs host for you. We also have faculty who live in the halls, and they host a lot of amazing programs too. And a lot of them are critical conversations. A lot of them are basically our professors hosting conversations around critical topics that are happening in the world or nearby in the community, whatever that looks like. But there's a lot of opportunity to get to know our faculty on that very individual level too, which is very unique. You don't see that in a lot of other places. And then we have a lot of identity club or collaboration. So we'll do things with First Gen Club, and we'll do things with different clubs that take place in the residence halls. And yeah, there's just so much opportunity. And like Kirsten mentioned, you can have some of our RAs will host lunch on the mounds, something as simple as that, to like checking in with you. They do some door-to-doors, which is basically going door to door on their floor, and kind of either having, like, one of our RAs last time did like making a stress ball. So they literally walked around with like all of the things you needed to make a stress balloon ball, and it was like something you could squeeze, which is like really fun. And so different opportunities that exist. Of course, we're going to take COVID and safety into account, but we are excited to kind of get back into person and begin planning those things and really make you all feel like a home away from home is Pitzer, you know? Another thing that Elena mentioned with ways to get involved. We have RHC, which is called Residence Hall Council. And something to note is that a lot of first years, when they come onto campus, they think that they shouldn't apply for this because it feels like it's too, maybe it's like they're too new to the school for that. But know that before COVID hit, our president was a first year student. And so note that what Residence Hall Council does is really we're a group of like five to six students, and we talk about how we can make improvements in the halls. What can we do to improve the first year experience? What can we improve to improve the upper class experience? So there's members from all classes in our team. And so all of those positions will go out at the beginning of the semester. So you'll get lots of emails. Make sure to look out for that one specifically. If you are interested and to want to learn more about that, you can always reach out to me early on as well. A lot of students did that, and I kept them in mind when the applications came out, and I sent it out to them. Another thing to note is that you'll hear a lot of acronyms, so feel free to ask us what those acronyms mean. Like I just mentioned, well, another tip that I would give is for now, at least, you know, thinking about starting in the fall and getting involved and you're probably really excited, especially as you're hearing all this information. I would highly recommend following our Instagram accounts. This is like a shameless plug, but I really think it'd be important, especially our Res Life account, which is going to come out with a lot of housing tips, a lot of tips in general as you move through this process of thank you, Kayla, of coming through and transitioning into campus, right? So a lot of moving in tips, a lot of things like that. And then obviously Pitzer orientation is another huge one where you're gonna get all your updates. You'll get updates through email, but this is a good way to also be updated on a lot of things that we send out emails on. And then we also have an Office of Student Affairs Instagram, Pitzer OSA. And honestly, if you follow one, you can kind of go through our followers and find all of the Pitzer related accounts that you can start following. Even our clubs and organizations have Instagram accounts. If you are feeling interested in something, feel free to follow them, you know, like see if they're doing any meetings where you can go to, like you know, you can definitely start to think about like what you're interested in and really start reaching out to them, because we're more than excited to bring you into this community. So yeah, so I think a lot of guidance and tips is going to be coming out on social media for moving in, for roommate searching, prepping for your first year. And we have a lot of great plans from orientation to programming prepared for you for that fall. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Tasmi, and thank you, Elena. Lots of good examples there of ways that students can start engaging now, or, you know, right away when they get to campus in the fall. I think we're ready for more questions. Looks like we have one right now. Elena, I'm wondering if you want to field this question about social gatherings for the fall semester.
Yeah, so that's a great idea, or a great question. We are all for students gathering socially. We want to make sure that our students are staying safe though. And so once kind of everyone comes to campus in the fall, we're definitely going to have those outlined around, you know, following, you know, LA County and CDC guidelines around how many people, you know, practicing social distancing and all that kind of stuff. But I think an exciting opportunity is going to be to get to know other folks. For the first fall semester, you're probably not going to see many parties at the 5Cs, just because we tend to have big events, hundreds and hundreds of people, and that, around COVID safety and whatnot, that's going to be something that we're not going to start off having. But, as, things move forward and we see how things go and we get more comfortable having the 5Cs, full, we will start looking at how parties and large scale events will play out. But we are going to find smaller ways for students to gather and do different activities together and get to know people. So.
One other thing I'll just add on to the gathering space would be, our dining hall and, eating and being together is definitely one of those traditions. And one of the great perks of our Claremont College is getting to eat at other dining halls and interacting with students that way. And, although at the moment, we don't think our students will be eating at other dining halls right away in the fall semester, we're hopeful that that's something that might change. But at the moment, we're planning on it just being on our campus is where you can eat. And we're coming up with new food options. And our students would ideally likely be eating outside in some new outdoor seating areas we have as well, encouraging folks to bring picnic blankets and outdoor seating, maybe some lawn games to hang out with your friends outside while you're eating. So that's something that to look forward to as well. Like socializing while you eat will still be totally normal, will still be something we highly encourage folks to do. Don't just grab food and head back to your room unless, you got to study or something. So just one more way to gather. Any other questions from folks or things, Elena and Tasmin, you wanted to expand upon?
There was a question about like a co-curricular event that has happened virtually. There's been a few from, we had like a Just Dance virtual event that my CAs did, which was awesome. They legit played Just Dance over Zoom, which I was very impressed about, but it went really great. They also did a soap carving event where we sent out, so to whoever was interested, we sent them like a soap bar through the mail, and then they carved that together. And they also had Stephanie from Strive to Thrive talk about self-care and wellness throughout their semester and how they can practice that daily as students. I'm trying to think of others. We've done so many. We did. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I really.
Oh no.
My frozen.
Oh,
Sorry.
there you go. You're good.
We've got a team that's doing some easy peasy series. So you teach other folks how to do something. And we've got a staff member that taught our students via Instagram Live, like how to find, cheap plane tickets, how to, travel for cheap, how to fold a fitted sheet. I did one about how to feed my dog who has mega esophagus. So it's just a really cool way to engage with folks about, topics that you don't usually get to talk with people about when you're in virtual meetings or virtual classrooms all day. And so we expect, there'll probably be a lot of good virtual engagement still happening as to complement what we're able to do in person as well.
Yeah, definitely. Some other questions are popping up. Are there any faculty events in the dorms? Yes, there absolutely is. So 2 of our faculty members live in the dorms, and so they have events. These might look different due to COVID. We're gonna have to figure out how to make that happen. But some of the faculty events usually took place in their actual apartments. Actually, they would invite them over in the apartments. Due to COVID, we'll probably have to figure out how to do that a different way, but it would usually be that faculty hosting it with another faculty talking about either a research topic that they're interested in or something that they've been doing that their passion is, right? And so we have really good topics, really cool topics that they talk about. There was one around just like politics in America, and there's a lot of other really exciting topics that our students really love. There's one professor that focused on environmental sustainability, so we have a lot of varying topics.
And one cool thing about living in POS, which is our kind of first year residence hall, is it kind of sits around the Gold Student Center. And that has a huge programming space that I think we can utilize both outdoors. Oh yeah, Kirsten is showing it. Both outdoors, there's outdoor space there, as well as there's indoor space for programming. And so I think that's going to be definitely a great place to kind of stop by on nights and weekends and see what's going on in the GSC, as well as grab a bite to eat at the Shakedown. So
See one more question here about how do you work at Residence Life, and just, Residence Life definitely has student positions, our resident assistants that we recruit for folks in their sophomore year. We also have work study positions though in our office. Again, our office is in the first year complex. So if you're work study eligible, you get to work at that front desk and hand out supplies to folks. Really great way to meet people and socialize. And we plan to still have those positions in the fall as well. And I know Elena's got some student employee positions she's talked about as well, but for first years, Elena, anything you'd want to plug?
Yeah, we're going to be creating a campus life programming assistant positions. And my hope is we target all of our new students in those opportunities as a way to help, craft, the programming experience that you hope to have. Since a lot of the student leader positions tend to be upperclassmen students that we recruit in the spring, I think it might be a fun opportunity to have some of our new students get involved in programming efforts.
Yeah, another question was, what does Wellness Lab Pitzer look like? And I really love this question. I think something that first years go through is really trying to figure out what that balance is, right? Like, how do I balance my academic life with my social involvements and with my wellness? And I think at Pitzer students love to get involved. And so as staff, when we chat with you all, we always ask, like, how are you doing? How do you feel? Are you, getting your sleep, getting your rest, but also doing things that you love? Like, is there anything on your plate that maybe isn't your passion, but you have it on there? And how can we really redo your priorities in that sense? We have a lot of resources on our campus and on the 5 Cs that we that you'll probably learn about during orientation and stuff, but we have an academic coach that can help you prioritize your academics and figure out how to prioritize your everything school related, right? And then we have like Strive to Thrive that does a lot of different initiatives throughout the year on like, how are you practicing wellness, whether that's like a booth on campus or whether it's something else. But they do ask you those questions that make you reflect, like, how am I practicing that? And I think in general, the Pitzer student population is very aware of that, right? And so even your friends will possibly check in with you and be like, hey, like, how are you doing? And like, how are we practicing self-care? And then we host a lot of programs around that. I think our RAs love that topic like the best. I think it's one of their favorites. And so they host a lot of things around self-care, and like hearing from like older students as well helps, like how did that go, or what tips they have.
I see a question about programming opportunities and how they're announced. So Pitzer tends to use social media as a way to kind of promote upcoming programs. So it's important that you follow PZ Res Life, and as well as our vice president of student engagement as a part of Student Senate. She tends to also, or that position tends to promote what clubs are up to. But we also have a Pitzer calendar, which is definitely a way you can kind of click on our homepage and see what programs are going on. And then at least I know this year, and something that we're going to be continuing, is a weekly email to all of our first year students about, just some reminders every week and tips and stuff like that. So that would be another way to kind of find out what's going on. For 5 Cs, there is a 5 C platform called Engage, which is a way for student organizations at the 5 C level to both communicate with students that are involved in those orgs, as well as promote upcoming events. So you'll be trained on that during orientation at how to use Engage, which is the 5 C platform.
Lots of good tips here, lots of good things to keep in mind. And don't worry, we'll tell you all this again when you're on campus for orientation. So you don't have to remember it all now, and you'll see our lovely faces in front of you many, many more times, I'm sure. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Tasmia, for all those great examples as well. Did you have any other parting words of advice for folks before we turn it back over? You said all the things. I love when Tasmia said shameless plug for our social media. So one more of those, and shameless plug for our April 23rd session. That's actually about the logistics of everything we talked about with orientation and housing. Come to that too.
Please come to that.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, and I know we have career services here as well, Carolina and Teresa. I will be welcoming you to the stage and then passing it on to you two.
Hello. Okay. I don't know if we should start right at 6:30. Carolina, you want to start us out?
Sorry, there you go. Hi, everyone. I am Carolina Rodriguez. I am the Assistant Director for Career Development at Pitzer College.
Hello, everyone. I'm Teresa Flores Roberts. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm the Associate Director of Career Services. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. So we have a quick, short overview presentation about our office and the services that we offer. And we're here to welcome you as well. So let's get started. So a little bit of an overview during our time together. We'll be going over our mission, the Pitzer career outcomes. And so where have our graduates gone and what are they doing now? Ways we are here to help. So we'll be talking about our programs, etc., special programs, our resources, of course, benefits of the Claremont College Consortium, and we'll be available to answer any questions that you have. Awesome. So we'll start off with our mission. So our mission is to empower and equip students and alumni to define and achieve postgraduate success as engaged, socially responsible citizens of the world. And so through our presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about, again, our special programs, that also includes bringing in alumni, bringing in employers to talk about exactly that, right? How to be a socially responsible citizen of the world. And so again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask at the end.
Always forget to unmute myself. It's a Zoom thing. We'll all figure it out and then Zoom will be over. So every year we send an electronic survey out to our May graduates, and that 6 months out in November, this is typical of most colleges who conduct these types of surveys, which are called first destination surveys. And there's a couple of things that I feel like you should know about this survey before I go over the real interesting stuff that students want to know is, where do students go after graduation? So let me just tell you a little bit about the survey. So according to our professional association, the knowledge rate of 65% is considered to be valid. And the knowledge rate is, what do we know about students after graduation, 6 months out? What are they doing? Ideally, we'd love to have a knowledge rate of 100%, but we're always striving to get that number. But actually, like I said, the average rate across the country is 65%. And as you can see, we have a knowledge rate of 76.6%. So we're very excited about that knowledge rate. And we keep trying to drive that information up so that we can continue to get the most accurate data out to prospective students, parents, and community members. So the knowledge rate is achieved by alumni who basically get the survey electronically. And also for those who don't fill out the survey because they lost the link to the email or some other thing, we also follow up with phone calls. We track down people through social media, and then we ask our staff and faculty and community, Pitzer community, to find out, what are these seniors doing? So that's kind of the knowledge rate. And then I think I've, can you go to the next slide, Carolina? I don't think I have anything else to follow up on that. Just this year being the pandemic, we did offer we offer lifelong career services to our graduates. But this year being the pandemic and students graduating in a virtual environment, we wanted to make an extra extra effort to reach out to those graduates. And so we did have an indication on the survey, do you want extra career assistance? And we did have students take advantage of that, and we reached out to them and scheduled separate appointments and whatnot. We're very invested in our alumni, as we are in our students, and we want you to know that we are here even after you graduate 4 years from now. So what type of work are our graduates doing? So we actually have 3 years of data here, 18, 19, and 20. There are, just so you all have an idea, there are approximately 200 to 250 graduate or students graduating in any given year. Obviously, most of them are full-time. We do have some that are part-time. We usually typically have 10 to 15% of our students go on to graduate and professional school, and that is about average with most colleges and universities across the country. Pitzer does have a lot compared to other liberal arts schools, a lot of students who go on to do fellowships, and in particular, the Fulbright. And so we do actually have several more students who go on to do fellowships after graduation than the typical liberal arts liberal arts graduate. Now, if you can see on the data, we did have a huge dip in that number this year, and that is because many of our students who did get the Fulbright, which a lot of our students do get, the Fulbright is a great opportunity to study, research, teach abroad internationally after you graduate. So many of those opportunities were canceled due to the pandemic, so that's why that number is down. Also, as you can see, full-time was down slightly. So it looks like in 2019, we had about 58% full-time, and this last summer, we had, or this last 6 months, we had about 52% go into full-time. So all of that, we hope those numbers will go up this next year. Hopefully, thinking positively, the pandemic is winding down as we all are going through this time in our lives, getting vaccinated and whatnot. Okay, yes, next slide. So a deeper look at full-time employment. So we want you to know that the way that we capture data is by the industry, not the position. So if someone is taking a position as a social media person in a hospital, the category would actually be healthcare, not media, entertainment, arts, media, whatnot. So that's just how we calculate the data. That's the industry standard. And so we go by that industry standard. Like I said, approximately 52% of the class of 2020 obtained full-time employment. Now keep in mind, remember I told you like 200 to 250 students graduated. So that number starts to get smaller. That's about 100 to 130 students obtained full-time employment. So as, okay, next slide. So again, if you look at some of this data, it makes sense based on what we all know what is going on in the pandemic. So tech employment was at an all-time high during this time. It actually outperformed business and finance as an industry. This was not the case in the previous year. So just wanted to call your attention to that. The same is true for health, medicine, and research. So again, we're seeing a lot more positions available in those industries. So industry, at least for this year, is shifting. We'll see what the data will tell us this upcoming November. So, okay, that's perfect. So this is just a fun slide of our selected employers. where our recent alumni have gone on to work at as very first jobs just after they've graduated. Some of these names you may know of: Amazon, Apple, NFL, Environmental Defense Fund, Southern California Gas Company. Some ones that you may not know, Rock Nation. I was interested to learn that. That's the entertainment media company founded by Jay-Z. And there are several investment companies there: Morgan Stanley, lots of consulting companies, CloudMed, which does healthcare consulting. We've got a hospital in there, Capital Health, and a couple of environmental, United States Geological Services, Environmental Defense Fund, Strategic Energy Innovations, and then I already mentioned Southern California Gas Company. So just some really interesting employers that our recent grads are working in. So the next slide talks about a deep, just to kind of give you an overview. Remember, I was telling you about graduate programs and where do our students go after they graduate. These are some high profile schools you may have heard about: Carnegie Mellon, Columbia University's Teachers College, Cornell, Georgetown, King's College in London, UC Berkeley, UPenn Law, USC, Vanderbilt, Yale are just a few. Again, that's not all the graduate programs, but that's just a selected list. And that's it. So again, I will turn it back over to Carolina.
Perfect, thanks, Teresa. So in the Career Services Office, we use a holistic approach, and we use kind of this 3 rubric for career development. And I'll go in a little bit more detail on what these 3 are and how we kind of use it when working with students and alumni, et cetera. So the 3 are discover, explore, and equip. So first, discover. So, especially as, first years and more into your first and second year of college, right? You're discovering, what are you passionate about? What is it that you want to do, right? And so we encourage networking, right? Talking to alumni. And again, we'll kind of go over our special program. So the discover piece is considering and articulating one sense of purpose, interest, strength, weakness, and desired life for, after Pitzer, right? So the way that we do this is by individualized career advising. So we offer 30-minute career advising. So whether it's right now, virtually Zoom or over the phone, or even meeting with our great career fellows who are your peers, who we hire and train to go over resumes and cover letters. So that's one way that you can discover a little bit more about, what do you want to do, right? One of our options as a career appointment is an intro to career services. So even if you don't know, right, or you have all these ideas, we always encourage students to come and talk to us and just get to know us, but also let us help you, right, in that discovery piece. We also offer assessments. So some assessment, Clifton Strengths, MBTI, Strong Interest Inventory, and these are free of charge for students. And so if you want to learn a little bit more about what are my interests and how does that relate to, or what are my strengths and how does that relate into a career, we can definitely help you in talking about which of these assessments would be good to take, right? And how can that kind of help you discover a little bit more about what you want to do after Pitzer. And then we also have group level workshops and opportunities. I work a lot with our affinity groups. And so we put on different workshops throughout the semester, throughout the year, whether it's resume, cover letter. I know with BSU, we had an internship party. And so we talked about how to find internships, which was really cool. And then explore. So once you kind of like learn a little bit more about maybe a major or a specific industry, right? Now it's time to really investigate and experience the various contexts and fields in which one may contribute, right? So maybe you're interested in econ and want to know, what can that take me, right? Maybe you're interested in econ, but don't want to go into the consulting route. That's totally okay. We can help you explore other fields of where can you take that econ major, right? Grad school, right? Like Teresa said, or again, is it you do want to go into a totally different field in consulting, and that's okay, and we can help with that. In some ways that, we encourage students to explore is by having information sessions or panels, right? So again, we bring in alumni, we bring in board of trustee members for these workshops so that you get to talk to them and ask questions and learn more about their field. The Pitzer Connect series, which is kind of what I was talking about, bringing alumni, Pitzer trustees to just have conversations with students, right? I think that it's always really great to hear from those in the field that you're interested in, or maybe you had no idea that you were interested in that until you hear someone talk. I know that Teresa just put on a Pitzer Connect series on mental health this last Tuesday. So we definitely have those throughout the year. Career tracks. So when we're, on campus, we have on Fridays, we have these career tracks where we take students to different areas in LA to meet with different companies, different organizations, or even alumni to be actually physically present in a company, right? And learn a little bit more about the work that they do. Career fairs. So whether it's us or our other 7C colleagues, we offer career fairs throughout the year. Another opportunity for you to explore not just fields, but also employers. There's so many employers out there that you don't know where you might fit or where, who you might want to work for in the future. Shadowing and internship funding, which we'll go over in a little bit. Electronic resources, so like Handshake, which is our career platform. Vault, going global. These are specific website or electronic resources that can help you get these internships or these specific resources that might be helpful. So going global is really great if you want an internship abroad, and Vault is really great if you're looking into like the business consulting finance route. And lastly, I cannot see my screen. I can't see the bottom one. Teresa, what does it say?
Informational interviewing.
Informational interviewing, thank you. And again, that's where you interview alumni, where you interview maybe faculty, other folks, and it doesn't even just have to be Pitzer alumni, right? Maybe we connect you with another 7C alumni from Pomona, from CMC, that's maybe working in the company or field that you want to, right? And so that's one way, another way to kind of explore different fields, companies, etc. And then lastly, equip. So now really, like once you kind of know or have an idea of what you might want to major in or the field that you want to go into, it's now getting the resources necessary, right, to engage in your chosen endeavor. So how that might look like is networking skills and contacts, right? So one of my favorite tools is using LinkedIn and showing students how to use it to connect, again, not just with Pitzer alumni, right, but also with 7C alumni or even just in general. Resume, cover letter, interviewing skills. So if you have maybe a resume from high school, right, and you want to get it reviewed because you're already thinking about summer internships, that's something that we can definitely help with. And also mock interviews. I've been doing a lot of those with students currently because they're preparing for the summer internship interviewing. So we definitely can offer that too. Professional practice and etiquette, negotiation, advising, on-campus recruiting. We have employers, even in this virtual world, and definitely when we're back on campus, whenever that, that is, we have employers coming to campus. Teresa takes care of that, where they want to come and, meet our students and see, what you all are about, what work are you doing academically, and where do you want to go? And so that's really neat as well. Graduate school searches and applications. So if you want to work on, already thinking about graduate school or even the fellowships, right, that Teresa mentioned, we can definitely help with that as well. And then internship funding and opportunities, which Teresa will talk about. And then other specific initiatives and opportunities, and these are just kind of some of the ones I already mentioned, but Pitzer Connect series, where we connect you to alumni, board of trustee members, and they come to campus virtually or in person to talk about their experience. Career chats, these are the ones that I host. They usually take place on Wednesdays at 5:30. It just depends. And we go over topics about resume, cover letter, how to use LinkedIn, how to use Handshake, and how to update your profile. Career Action Week, that's another one of my favorite weeks that I brought in, where it's just a jam-packed week with alumni, with different topics that we talk about to get you ready for the internship search, for informational interviews, etc. This Agents Getting Ahead program, again, this is one of my favorite, I have a lot of favorite programs, but this one I got to build, and it's focused on helping sophomores with their career development and figuring out, what is it that they want to do? Because at the end of your sophomore year, you declare your major. And so we help students with the career process of that and like, what does that mean? Our career fellows, we have right now 2 great career fellows who are your peers. So they're usually sophomores to seniors, and they are trained over the summer to help you, whether it's resume, cover letter, interviewing, etc. Career Tracks, the Pitzer Internship Fund, and the Winter Break Shadowing Program.
Great, thanks, Carolina. So internships, everyone wants to know about internships. Parents want to know about internships, students want to know about internships. And why is that? Why does everybody want to know about internships? Well, it's because it's a crucial way to discern what field you're going to go into after graduation. So all employers require that students obtain at least some combination of internships, volunteer work, extracurricular experiences while you're an undergraduate student. So we want you to know that we are here to help you at any point in the process, but we know that students find internships and apply to internships using a variety of methods. There is not one way that students do find internship opportunities. So students are able to find internships through employers coming to campus. So like Carolina mentioned, we have the on-campus recruiting program where employers come and they hire students for internships and full-time jobs. It's a great opportunity to meet with an employer when we're back in person, which we will be in the fall. It's a great opportunity to meet with those employers, recruiters one-on-one, face-to-face. Yes, it can be scary for some students, but these employers are used to being on college campuses and talking to college students. So you'll find most of them, almost all of them are very friendly and easy to talk to. So we also do career workshops on how to find an internship. So students can come to those and get tips and tricks on ways to kind of find the perfect internship. We also meet with students a lot individually. Students can make an appointment with a career advisor and meet one-on-one with them if they have any specific questions. It's actually the way that I prefer because students have very specific interests and, beyond the general internship search information, this is a time where we can work one-on-one with students and really try to figure out what you want to be doing after graduation. Or not after graduation. Well, yeah, after graduation and next summer. So we know that students find internships through family and friends. I just talked with a student the other day, and he had knew of an internship opportunity through his aunt, and his aunt got him an interview. So we know that happens, and that's great. We encourage you to take advantage of those sorts of opportunities. We have a job and internship database called Handshake, and we do have lots of students who use Handshake and find opportunities through Handshake. And then also there's internships that are posted on the internet on just general and specific industry databases. So we can help students at any point in that process. Some students need a lot of help. Some students just give me a website and send me on my way and I'm good to go. So we're here to step in at any point when you need us. So speaking of internships, we have this great program. I've seen it since inception. I think it's, gosh, I can't even remember the years. I think it's been about 10 years. But the Pitzer Internship Fund is is the result of a generous gift from Pitzer alumni, parents, and friends of the college to provide funding for unpaid and low paid internship opportunities, only for summer. So right now, because the the fund is only able to provide that for unpaid right now. So, but typically we're able to fund between 50 and 60 unpaid and low paid internships as a yearly, average yearly award amount of $1,500. So that's a great opportunity that we encourage many students to take advantage of it. The Winter Break Shadowing Program. So that's another program that I manage. We advertise it to Pitzer alumni and parents as take a student to work. And so students in non-COVID times get to explore a professional field with a Pitzer alumni, parent, or a friend of the college between a half day and 3 days. Students are able to attend meetings, meet with executives, perhaps even complete a short project, get advice on their job search, their resume, see what the work environment is like, and get to meet others in the company. So it's a great opportunity. During this last January, we had 83 students who participated in a virtual winter break shadowing program. It was the only time that we've ever done a whole virtual program. We're all doing stuff that's new. We matched 83 students to 57 hosts, and all opportunities were virtual. It was so successful. We are going to do a hybrid model moving forward. So here are some of the people who are participated as hosts and as students, and here they are on Zoom learning a lot, and I did get a lot of great feedback from them.
Perfect, thank you. And then, we mentioned Handshake, and this is really one of the benefits of the Claremont colleges. So as a first year, you'll get access, or you'll get kind of access to Handshake late August, and you'll kind of be able to see what it's about. And we're, of course, able to help you too. But on Handshake, it's our career platform, and there's job and internship postings. So Teresa always sends me posts to put on our newsletter, put on Instagram on, alumni, like Pitzer alumni who are looking for Pitzer students, right? Either seniors who are getting ready to apply for full-time jobs, or students who they're looking for internships. And so this is a really great place to look for jobs and internships. Our career fairs will always be posted, as well as events, not just at Pitzer, but around the consortium. Employer visits, so those recruiting events that happen, resources and best practices, alumni connection, and other opportunities. Something that I like to tell students is that if Pomona's having an event and you're really interested, like maybe they're having a law event, right? You're more than welcome to go, unless it says like only Pomona students, but that's really rarely the case. And we also welcome students from the 7 Cs. So that's a really great benefit of being in the Claremont colleges. And it's one of my favorite things as a CGU alum, a Claremont graduate alum. I would go to other events from that other Claremonts put on, because it was open to 7C students. So it's definitely something to take advantage of as a Pitzer student. And then lastly, we welcome you to stay connected with us. We have an Instagram page that we're always active, posting events that are happening, jobs and internships that we come across. So our Instagram handle is Pitzer Career Services. And then of course our website has all of the kind of information that we talked about, more specific links and resources, and that's pitzer.edu/career services. So, and that is it. Any questions?
No questions, huh?
I guess that was super informational.
I guess so.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Where can our students email you if they have any follow-up questions?
Definitely. Can they view the chat?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll put it in the chat. Would it be all panelists and attendees? Yeah, no, attendees, there we go. You didn't even ask if we could, what pets we have. Sometimes I bring my dog to work. So you can come in and visit PETA. She used to be a guide dog for the blind, or at least a puppy in training. So that's, I can't wait to get back on campus so I can bring her to work. Carolina, you don't have any pets, I'm sorry.
No, but I love PETA. But I also put the career services at pitzer.edu email. Tammy, who is the office manager, manages that. So if you have any specific questions, she'll be more than happy to answer it, or she'll send it to one of us and we can stay connected that way too.
All right, thank you so much. For those who are still here, that is the end of our Student Engagement Day. If you need to go back to look at any part of today's session, our recording will be made available on our admitted student page website in a couple of days. And then if you miss the environmental sustainability program on Tuesday, you can also watch the recording there. Have a good night, everyone.